Hey everybody, it's the last Robo Guy here, it's Nioh! I'm joined by Cool Guy, and it's time to get traveling.
元忠殿は我らにケリーメから家康様をお守りするよう命じられた。殿のおられる駿河へはわしら忍びだけが知る早道がある。我が父祖の地である伊賀を越えて参ろう。ウィリアムよ、ケリーを追わねばならぬはお主とて同じ。共に家康様のもとへ急ごうぞ。
Yeah, so now we're in the Tokai region, and before we do the main quest, we have a side quest. Another one of Okatsu gets us a very dubious job quests. We're on, like, number, 3 now of those?
No, ma'am, your kids are already dead.
Mm-hmm.
That is how this is working out. Like, Okatsu is basically like, hey, could you go find these kids? And we're just basically being Agent Smith, telling her, no, they're already dead.
Yeah, there are no kids. There are only yokais now.
Yeah, Jesus.
So we're in a new region now. So we're back down in elixirs, but because I've got so many upgrades and everything like that, we've got 10. Also, everybody get used to that noise, because every time I pick up Amrita, my William's going to be regenerating health.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what the hell is this now? Is this the effect of your armor set?
That's just one of the many traits you can get on your gear.
Frickin' Dweller thinks he's all that. That is quite the dodge you've got going on there, by the way.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well. Dodge
well,
distance is really what I mean to say. Like, I'm so used to you wearing heavier armor than apparently this is, because this doesn't look like featherweight armor.
No, this is medium armor, so
right.
I don't know.
So you like
I have upgraded my dashes a little, but I don't know if it was distance. I thought it was just general, like, you know, like speed.
I do appreciate how you just
usage.
Totally whiffed with the Kurosugama, by the way. Because that Dweller was just all up in your business.
Yeah, rude as heck. Now we're fighting a Tenju.
You know, every time I see these things, it's like, I realize this is an insanely 2019 thing, but I keep thinking about how Untitled Goose Game would have gone if we would have just had a Tengu in it instead. The crazy thing is, I can't come up with too many differences. like they encapsulated a Tengu's overall, what's the word I'm looking for? Worldview pretty well in that dumbass game, which I love, by the way. Not trying to take it down a peg. I love that dumbass game.
It's a pretty amazing game from everything I've seen of it.
Yeah.
I'm not playing too many games at the moment because I'm playing Nioh, and Nioh is such an all-encompassing experience.
It really
is.
We were just talking a little bit before we started commentary about how it always strikes me when Robokai gets waist deep in a game like this, because it's not that uncommon for it to happen to me. Like I could. In all of the years we've worked together, I'm sure if we started naming them, you could get like a couple dozen games that have just consumed my soul over a weekend. You don't see me, you don't hear from me. Like I come back with a crusty miner beard and stuff. It's just crazy. But you know, I mean, when it happens to Robokai, that's when you know that game is something truly special. Nioh is one of those damn games.
I go off and I record footage of Nioh, and I finish recording it, and I get in and I start encoding the footage and everything, and I sit there for a moment and say, I really just want to keep playing Nioh right now. But like I'm encoding, like I don't want to take up too much space on my hard drive.
I always do that crap overnight, precisely because I always get so into it like that. Like every time it's overnight. What the hell was that? You just sort of like...
That's the parry, and I was like, maybe I can try it, and I'm like, it's probably just like...
It kind of looked like you just sort of beat your chest and was all, come at me, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the timing, unfortunately, for this particular one.
I wouldn't worry about it. I think it would be silly if you worried about it.
Yeah. So we'll be going. The next major mission is the next mission in this particular video, and we're going to be going into the Iga Province. So I figured we might as well take a little bit of time to talk about the Iga Province while we're here. Iga Province was quite unique amongst a lot of Japanese locations because it wasn't under the rule of any particular lord for the most part. It was the closest thing Japan has ever had to a republic. It was extremely difficult to access mountainous region, and also because it had I think it was quite well known for its forestry as well.
It was
lots of dense trees and everything. So a standard army didn't really go that well for the most part. You'd need like a very large army to really sort of get any good mileage out of trying to invade the Iga Province or fight within the Iga Province. So as a result, people tended to fight in guerrilla warfare instead. You know, ambushes, smaller forces, you know, tactics like that. And so that's where the Iga Ninja really first came into prominence. And this lasted for a very long time, and it lasted until we're just gonna kill some.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was really not expecting that to come up.
And they because these guys are jerks, and
you
so
saw
I was like,
freaking umbrellas came up, and suddenly I understood.
Yeah, no, screw that. They're so annoying to try and chase down when there's two of them and they're
there's
leaping
friggin' two of them too, wasn't there? Like I saw two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, screw that.
There's definitely two.
Living weapon. Screw that.
Yep, got a living weapon our way through that. So yeah, the Iga Province was ninja territory for a very, very long time. They still answered to the shogun, because reading through about like Iga ninja stuff, there was at least one time, you know, where they actually came out in force to help deal with like a problem that the shogun had to deal with someone not responding to his rule or whatever, and they came to his assistance, and this was the shogun that was ultimately killed by Danjo.
Yep.
So it wasn't even that like relatively not recent in terms of this game. Then Oda Nobunaga wanted to take the territory, and he sent his son in like twice, and his son didn't succeed because it's not really an easy place to conquer.
It's a freaking it's an offensive nightmare, and you can't, because it's so mountainous. In addition to being very heavily wooded, that is really the crux of the issue here, because particularly in Japan, heavily wooded areas were strategically important simply because you know you could do a selective cut and have fine lumber supplies from there that you could keep going with year after year after year. That's one of the things that even in relatively medieval times people generally understood. You can't clear cut a lot of these areas, because then it's a resource that's just gone. If you selective cut, then you can husband it and get the same thing over and over and over again. Much like the difference between, you know, killing the goat versus capturing it, feeding it, and domesticating it, right? The problem being is that Iga Province wasn't even good for that, because the logistical nightmare of getting the logs out of the forest made it just totally not bloody well worth it.
Yeah, so more often than not, the forest stayed. And in the end, Oda Nobunaga ended up sending a mammoth force of like 60,000 or something guys to take care of it, and essentially just lined them all up and marched them all in as dense a formation as he could. And even against, you know, guerrilla warfare is good and all, but you know it has its limits. And
it does.
In the end, Oda Nobunaga was able to pacify the Iga region by like essentially driving all of the Iga forces into 2 castles, and then giving them the option to surrender, which they wisely took. It wasn't like the usual bloodbaths you see Oda Nobunaga performing.
Yeah, but like that was one particular time where they had forced him to give them his full attention, And he respected that to some extent or another.
And the Iga fell more or less under the control, or at least I wouldn't say control, but more under the interests of the Tokugawa after that. In no small part, I guess, because the Iga spent a lot of time. Oh, someone's at the door.
Candy Graham!
I know that a couple of people probably just looked over their shoulders. Oh no! The children were actually jerks!
How surprising!
And each one has a thing to say when you kill them.
Definitely the correct thing to do to go living weapon here. Too dark, let me out of here. Oh, goody! So they were probably all abandoned, just saying. Just saying, all of these kids were probably unwanted children who were abandoned.
And now they're dead. Well,
now
they're
dead.
Yokai, and now they're dead.
And you really didn't like living weapon was the correct way to handle that.
We didn't want to deal with any giant cyclopses. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Those things hit you twice, and all of a sudden, they're big one-eyed Oni that are all up in your business.
Huh. Wow, look at that. The guy who gave us the mission just sort of left the money and left again.
Perhaps it wasn't wise to accept their request. Okatsu, you are a terrible judge of character.
Alright, now it's time to go on the Iga escape. The Iga Province is also famous amongst the Tokugawa, because when Akechi Mitsuhide killed Oda Nobunaga, he wasn't alone in the region. Tokugawa Ieyasu had been with him for a time, but had moved on elsewhere in order to do some more inspections of regions and things like that. And so he didn't have a huge, he didn't have very many people himself, and so when Akechi Mitsuhide kicked off his little rebellion, Tokugawa Ieyasu was also in an extremely dangerous position himself, and it was Hanzo II, Hanzo the Oni, that managed to lead Ieyasu to safety, and he did it by bringing him through the Iga Province. Because if the head of the Tokugawa clan had been captured at that point, it would have given Mitsuhide an amazing amount of leverage.
Yeah, that would have been a damn disaster.
And the time spent, picking up the pieces, and getting things back in order after that escape, because obviously they didn't have the internet, so they couldn't just send a message, "It's okay, guys, I'm through here." Had to sort of reorganize everything, get everything back together, figure out what they were going to do next. And by the point that Tokugawa Ieyasu had managed to get all that done, Hideyoshi had already pretty much, solidified his power base.
I really appreciate how Hanzo in the intro to this mission said, "Don't worry, I grew up around here. This won't be a problem." Implicitly revealing, by the way, that this Hanzo Hattori is, as you were mentioning, Hanzo the Oni, that is historically accurate to this time period.
Actually, he's not. He's the third one.
Oh, is he? I missed that. Okay, my bad.
He is in the lore entries that we have.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually number 3. And I'm glad you brought this up, because number 3 doesn't have too great a history himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought Hanzo the third was grew up closer to Kyoto. Am I wrong about that?
He grew up essentially with his father being trained the whole time, and was actually accompanying him as a soldier by the time of Sekigahara.
Okay, cool.
It was not too long after that Hanzo II, because Hanzo I was just a spear user, spear using samurai who served Tokugawa, and so we've got the third one, and the third one was actually probably more famous for his failures than his successes, because he was in charge of a unit patrol in Edo, which was the capital, which was the Tokugawa capital. And as what essentially happened was they were based near the Hanzo Gate, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, it's never really specified in all the things I've looked at, he upset his men to the point that they actually rebelled against him, and he lost a lot of face for that.
That takes effort back in the Sekigahara period, by the way.
先へ進めると
Also, if you're stuck, you know, Hanzo's got some hints for us. This is it. This is a ninja house. We aren't going to be traversing this place normal ways. When he's telling us to look around, he's telling us to look at the floor, which you might notice has some weird scraping surfaces on it. Ninja house!
Ninja house!
Now it starts to make sense. This place is full of tricks and turns.
I
and
noticed that
walls
earlier, and it hurt me a little bit to see the tatami messed with like that. Tatami floors, if you've never walked on them, by the way, they're kind of an experience in and of themselves to walk on, in that they are incredibly pleasant to walk on, but they're very, 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 very fragile. Like one of the big reasons why there's the culture around removing your shoes in a Japanese house is because a lot of Japanese floors were the dried pressed grass tatami floors for a substantial amount of their history. And if you walk on those things in sandals, it gets really dirty, and it's practically impossible to clean the damn things. But they feel so good under your feet. Like, it feels so good. Like, it's an experience in and of itself. I love it.
They do feel quite nice.
They feel really good.
Yeah, so the thing is, though, we're not just dealing with trapdoors, for example. I'm sort of bringing it up to show here. You sort of notice the discoloration on that floor. Oh,
yeah.
No!
How surprising.
Oh, no! You can get their shit killed out of here, and that's fun.
Yeah, that very nearly killed you.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could dodge back before it popped, but, nope.
Not so
Anyway,
much.
so the only way we can approach this particular yoki is from this direction, and this yoki is, once again, a spike. One that's sort of been powered by a spike. There is a nearby spike, so he's healing, he's stronger,
He's falling down.
he's taking a little bit of damage from the trap. Let's just take a moment. So you have to be very careful with this guy.
Yes! Nailed him with the last one. Top marks.
A lot of damage, too. Yeah, so essentially, if we wanted to get rid of this guy without fighting him, which would be downright impossible considering he's directly blocking our only path, we would have to find and destroy the spike, which is, in this particular case, a wind-based one. We've had our ice, we've had our lightning, and now it's wind.
I'm rather surprised he was still within range of the Amrita spike there, because you had faded him pretty.
I'm pretty sure the range is
position.
infinite.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, and you can always tell, like, where they are as well in relation to where the Amrita spikes are, because the map will always sort of thread between them, even if you don't have enemy detection. As you can see a line poking out, and there's a guy there. That's it leads back to a big marker on the map, so that's how that works. Of course, it doesn't help much with the vertical nature of this level.
Yeah, I was gonna like that's the reason why I hesitated for a long moment, because my brain was busy reconciling the difference between what was going on in your radar minimap and trying to figure out how verticality affected it.
Yeah. But we can exploit these tricky little flaws and things quite well for ourselves, because we get ourselves a little treasure room, a little shortcut, but we can sneak up behind the enemies that would normally be waiting in ambush for us, because Ninja House.
Ninja House. Also famed ninja locks. There is some valuable loot.
Yeah. So getting back to Hanzo for a bit, because he didn't just Hanzo the Third. He didn't just fuck up in that regard. Like, he then went on. Two men fled. They basically went, "We can't stand this shit anymore. We out." So he pursued them, because obviously that's dereliction of duty, and he's responsible for that.
Yeah, you can't let that stand. Particularly in this time. Like no army will ever respect you again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a case of mistaken identity happened. And he killed someone who was completely unrelated to the whole thing.
Oh my god!
And as a result, lost his position as the head of that particular guard unit.
I never heard this story about Hanzo the Third.
Yeah, no, I found it while poking around the internet, and
Good
yeah,
Lord.
ultimately, Hanzo III perished in the second siege of Osaka. And the new Hanzo was his younger brother, who was the one who was essentially assigned to take over that Iga guard unit. Though ultimately, from what I've read about that, they stopped being ninjas. Like ninjas basically stopped being a really important thing. Guerrilla warfare, stopped being a thing. So they became a more traditional sort of rifle guard. There it is.
There's the Emerald Spike.
And they were too slow.
Spike. Oh, that's.
So that's Shima Sakon there. He's the one who's been going through this place, putting these spikes down, in a part of Kelly's attempt to slow us down while he goes to try and take care of the Tokugawa.
That sounds like Kelly's plan. Like that sounds like an insanely Kelly plan.
And as we saw there, the frog was in the way of our passage. Frogs are one sort of creature that's often associated with ninjas, I think in part possibly because of the poisons frogs can have, and their usage in guerrilla warfare being quite handy if you want to kill someone quietly.
A lot of it is also just some of the individual mythoses that ninjas chose to develop for themselves. The ninja Jiraiya, in particular, was a ninja that probably never existed, but a bunch of ninja units used as an avatar or a mascot, as it were. And his entire sort of thing was that his alternate form, the one that he would watch you from and learn your secrets from.
Frogs were considered to be extremely long-lived creatures, capable of attaining a sentient status. There's a bit of a belief that I think it's that you see sometimes in Japanese, and I think sometimes in Chinese mythology as well, that relates to the idea that if an animal lives long enough, it can achieve a sort of a godlike status, a deity status. It's something that's kind of interesting.
So frogs in particular are actually kind of interesting in that way, because this is one of those situations where I am going to appear to run off with the point, but I swear to God I'm bringing it back. So the entire idea behind aging is what's clinically known as senescence. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but there are multiple different styles of aging that medical technology acknowledges, and there is such a thing as like senescence immunity, which is what crocodiles are as a example have. So crocodiles actually never die of old age, because aging does not affect them. This is literally a thing that exists in real life. By the way, they are just simply immune to aging. They will continue to grow. They will continue to get meaner and bigger the longer that they live. And the reason crocodiles die is always of starvation, because eventually they get too big for their own britches and they simply can't feed themselves. And they simply can't move fast enough to get prey. And most frogs are one level below that senescence level in what's called negligible senescence, wherein they could live for hundreds and hundreds of years if they could somehow get the resources to support them for that long. Tortoises are also in this negligible senescence category, but tortoises have evolutionarily lowered their metabolic requirements to the point where they can actually take advantage of it. Most species of frogs have not. But this in particular, I've always found is really interesting in terms of Japanese mythology, is that they identified this difference between the effects of aging and the ability to gather those resources much faster or much sooner than most other civilizations did, and it relates directly to what you're talking about, in that frogs can gain sentience if they happen to live long enough. It's simply that most of them don't, because they can't get the resources that they need to continue growing and continue handling their other genetically mandated needs quick enough to go past their normal lifespan of I forget exactly how long most Japanese frogs tend to live, but I'll say a decade as a general example. I swear to, like I told you, I seem to run off with the point, but I did bring it back.
No, it's good. Yeah, I thought that was like, it's just one of those very cool and interesting things about Japanese mythology and ideas.
It is a beautiful.
Is that they do have an intelligent place in the world. Like, they do have a thought out place.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm not sure why that guy didn't explode.
Yeah.
Also, I accidentally interrupt Shima monologuing there. I forgot that one also activates a monologue.
Oda's army had wiped out all of the Iga ninja. Like, you can say that, like, a lot of daimyo have said that. I've wiped out the Iga ninja. I've wiped out the Iga ninja. You have never.
I've wiped out the Koge ninja.
The Iga ninja. You have never done it.
No. The only thing that I think eventually saw the end of the Iga ninja was simply there wasn't a need for him anymore. So that's exactly correct. You like after a certain point, you know, an age of peace came.
Yeah, like Japan ended up unified in a generally very harmonious, if intellectually and culturally stagnant situation for a couple of hundred years, until functionally the American Admiral Perry showed up and
yes.
basically just like, yo, y'all be trading with us or I be shooting. You know, like, that was more or less the conversation that happened. But this in particular is something that I've kind of waited for a point to talk about for a while. Is something interesting coming up? Should I not go on another rant?
Oh no! This is just welcome to the second part of the Ninja House.
Yeah, Ninja House, boy. Oh, immediately his horns come off, and immediately he recovers from it. Jesus, that was like the most clinical takedown I've ever seen that had absolutely no effect whatsoever.
Yeah, he was on me and I was on him. Ninja Yoki are not to be messed with at any point in this game.
You do not screw around with these casts. And you didn't. Good game, no re. But anyway, yeah, no, so this is actually an incredibly interesting sociological note on the importance of trade as a whole, in the sense that in the Sengoku era, when there was still uncommon and highly regulated but still trade with the Portuguese, you know, they were masters of the plow, and the Japanese farmers as a whole were masters of the plow. They kept large amounts of cattle, oxen to help drive those plows, and there were mills and everything like that. By the time Admiral Perry showed up, the Japanese did all of their tilling by hand with a hoe. The plow had completely just disappeared from their tool set, and instead of using the mill to crush the rice, for example, and husk the rice, they would instead have rice pounders, like human rice pounders, that would just step on rice for up to 12 hours a day, naked in just a back room. It was the actual opposite of what happened in Europe and the United States around that same time, in that instead of having an industrial revolution where more and more labor was delegated to machines, they had an industrious revolution where more and more tasks were delegated to human labor simply because they had a high population density. So labor was cheap, and it didn't make sense to ever invent any of these highly efficient machines that the Europeans felt was a necessity, simply because they were dealing on such a larger scale. Like an English weaver didn't have to think about just making cloth for England. They were thinking about making cloth for England, for France, for Germany, for the United States, and in certain eras, even for... Okay, that is the worst ninja ever! Oh my god, that dude!
Also, Ninja House! Don't try to understand how the fuck we just flipped the entire room. Don't even try and understand it.
I saw that earlier while I was ranting, and it was just like, eh. But yeah, anyway, I'm almost done. The point is that you know, the English weaver was thinking about making cloth for entire continents. The Japanese cloth maker was only thinking about making cloth for Japan during this closed time, and because of that, you know, they adopted very different strategies. It's an incredible difference in terms of the overall value and effect of what access to trade and access to markets does to society.
Y'all feeling educated? Because I'm feeling educated.
I mean,
but yeah, I done a bit of reading about the Meiji Restoration before this, and I actually watched a little bit of a movie when I went to England called Samurai Marathon, which is about a bunch of samurai being forced by their lord, who has become immensely paranoid with the arrival of the Americans, that they're just so inferior. Also, Ninja House. that basically he organizes a marathon to get everybody ready and going, and it's sort of about different characters all taking part in this marathon. And it's like I ended up like stopping because my flight, you know, started to land, so everything was turning off. So
I feel like that needs to be. You need to give me the name of that at some point, so I can suggest it for our Friday night movie night. Like that is something we do with our community. We do Friday night movie nights. It's fun. It's great. 100 like 10 out of 10 would watch again. But you know, that sounds super fucking interesting, and it's like my role, Ninja House, to suggest like weird offbeat movies like that. So I'm gonna need like all of that information.
No worries. Yeah, I'm also gonna go up here and get this. Man, this fucking look at it, flipped an entire goddamn room. Pretty sure I couldn't do that.
I'm like this is kind of messing with my fear of heights, to be honest with you. Like I'm anxious just watching this Ninja House.
Not anxious watching the giant spikes come down.
No, like that's the weird thing, is that that doesn't really bother me. It's just like, you know what? Okay, I've seen a thwomp. All right, I've played Mario. This is basically an IRL thwomp, and that doesn't really bother me. But those heights, that bothers me.
Yeah, so that was the door that was closed off. So now we've gone through Ninja House. We don't have to go back that way if we fuck up now.
Another ninja Yoki. God bless.
Yeah. Lot of deceased Iga ninjas from Nobunaga's time coming back for the revenge.
Sounds about right.
I've actually been finding subsequently playing after this mission, I'm getting a bit more of a handle of these guys.
I mean, that was a pretty clinical takedown, one that I almost certainly would not have been able to duplicate.
So we're back in flippy wall territory, but this one's a pretty straightforward jaunt. this is part of the boss run. So you're going to be clearing out a few mists, get a few particular spots done. There's going to be very few enemies. there's a lot of, you know, backwards and forwards things here.
I can sympathize with that dead dude.
You see me looking up a lot for a very good reason.
Yup. How's it going, homie?
Maybe he hasn't noticed me. Splat.
I'm sorry. Just like that reminded me of one of the feminine taunts from UT 99. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I blow your head apart? That was always one of my favorite taunts from that game. Women in that game owned. I miss the glory days of Unreal Tournament. By the way, like that is unrelated.
Yeah, you've referenced Unreal Tournament quite a number of times in this Let's Play already. It's like
Unreal Tournament was amazing, okay, and just there's so many very unique experiences, particularly the Game of the Year edition that was UT 99. People still play that. There's still a healthy community for that game. Gluttonous Shirayoshi, awesome. There's still a healthy community for that game, like 20 years later, by the way, and there's a good reason. P.S. You continue to
and it continues to work.
Yeah, like you continue to note my freaking my freaking profile of you. By the way, you started out with friendly, and it worked for you.
Always be friendly.
Fine. It's fine. Everything is fine.
Hot spring.
Does he always groan when he goes into the hot springs like that?
Yeah. Yeah, he's always like, ah.
Yeah, like, I feel like I've never truly noticed that before, and it's one of the most appropriate pieces of sound direction that is in this game. Because, like, seriously, like, if y'all at home have never been to a hot spring, I urge you to Google the nearest hot spring to you. For our American friends, that's probably either Arkansas or Colorado. We have amazing hot springs here in America. Owe it to yourself to just, even if it's just a long weekend. I get it if, you know, your work schedule is difficult and you can only get a couple of days vacation. Go to Colorado for a long weekend, or go to Arkansas for a long weekend. And just soak it in. It is one of the most wholesome experiences you will have in your life.
All right, I
What
sort
was
of
that
sat
cost?
around. That was me sitting around doing nothing for a little bit.
That's fair.
I always take a toilet break before I do a boss.
That is very wise, by the way.
Giant Toad is a hella fun fight.
I love this frog. Oh my
Fights
god,
well with
that
this. He
character in
fights
that
well with the
intro.
spear. You know, family tradition. He can use his pipe in a little swinging attack. He can blow out smoke that paralyzes. And he throws a variety of ninja tools at you. So it's you know, like this fight is a really good agile one that makes hecka good use of the area, and I'm continuing to make the mistake of trying to dash backwards when he does an attack. Dash forwards and under him. Also,
Toad has a wicked tongue, boy.
it's a frog. What would you expect? Fun fact about these particular explosives: you can block them.
Okay.
I didn't
That
block the
doesn't
second
make
one
any
because
sense,
I was a bit
but,
worried
you know,
about losing
whatever,
all my
I'll go
key.
with it.
But sometimes it just puffs. It's
God,
fine.
this dude is so stylish.
There's a very good reason why he's so damn cool.
Fuck. This man is awesome. I aspire to be half as rad as him.
Yeah, he's got some paralyzing bombs. Oh, he's still throwing more explosive kunai at me.
It was on your ankle. That attached to your ankle.
He just puffs. And you know, and the longer you go on, the more tricks he starts throwing out.
That's more like it. This guy is just having fun with this. Even if he dies, he is dying with a smile on his face. Oof.
Oh yeah, he's not.
Yipes.
He's not playing around. He is still playing for keeps. And I keep making that
Holy
same mistake.
Mother!
See, that's what you gotta do. Dash under him. And suddenly he just can't hit you.
By the Blessed Virgin! He just knocked you all the way out of frickin' Holy Mother! Like that was half of your living weapon and and 2/3 of your health besides. If you hadn't been in living weapon, that thrust would have murdered you. That bow is well deserved. Holy
I don't
crap.
normally beat him first try.
Yeah, like that was a testament to you.
この先も苦難が待っておろう。じゃが、忍びたる者心は常に水のごとし。せいてはことを子孫じるぞ。
化けて出てまで説教か。親父殿も変わらんもんよ。
Yeah, that was Hanzo the Second. Although historically he wasn't dead at this point. I guess they decided to do it because, you know, hey, cool, cool frog boss. I accept it.
Incredibly awesome fight.
And
like,
we've still got more coming in the next
so
episode.
cool.
I've been the last Robo Kai,
and I have been Cool Guy.
see you all next time.